An important part of solving equations later will require us to be able to factor binomials and trinomials. Factoring polynomials, we have the GCF, greatest common factor, and that's found by the largest number that divides into all the terms and the lowest exponent of each variable. For example, 4x minus 6x squared, both terms you can take a 2 out, and we have an x to the first and an x squared. 2x times 2 gives us 4x, 2x times negative 3x gives us negative 6x squared. This is using the distributive property backwards. The difference of two squares is when there's a binomial with a subtraction sign in the middle, and each term can be identified as the square of a number. For example, 25 minus 4x squared. 25 we can write as 5 squared, a perfect square, and 2x squared. So we can write each of these as 2 squares, and there's a difference in the middle. So we take 5 minus 2x and 5 plus 2x, and that's our answer. Notice if you fold the answer, the middle two terms will always cancel out. A general trinomial is a polynomial with 3 terms. We have to put them in descending order. If you fold your answer, it yields the original trinomial. For example, x squared plus 10x plus 16. And notice factors of 16 are 4 and 4, 8 and 2, and 16 and 1. Let's try 8 and 2. Notice if we FOIL this, x times x is x squared, x times 2 is 2x, 8 times x is 8x, 2x plus 8x is equals 10x, and 8 times 2 gives us 16. Finally, a perfect square trinomial has a binomial factor used twice. As an example, y squared minus 20y plus 100. We can write this as y minus 10, y minus 10. If we check this by foiling it, we get back to the original. But notice these binomials are exactly the same, so we can write them as y minus 10 quantity squared. Let's see if we can identify and factor these. 8w cubed minus 20w to the fourth. This is going to be the GCF type factoring. We can take a 4 out of both terms. We have a w to the third, w to the fourth, so we can take a w to the third out. Remember, we take the lowest power. 4 times what gives us 8? 2. We want the w cubed, but we already have w cubed. Minus 4 times what gives us 20? That would be 5. We have w cubed times what gives us w to the fourth? W to the first. GCF. Suppose we look at letter B here. This one looks a little more challenging. We can take a 5 out of all of them. Once again, we're looking for a GCF. This, by the way, should always be your first strategy, to look for a GCF. Let's see, we have x to the second, x to the first, and x to the second, so we can take an x out of each of them. Y to the second, and y, so we can take a y out of each of them. What do you multiply 5xy to get 5x squared y squared? We're missing an x, we're missing a y. Minus 5 times 2, we have the x, we're missing a y. Plus 5 times what gives us 15? 3x. Let's look at 49z to the fourth minus 25x squared. This is going to be the difference of two squares. We identify the first one as 7z squared, and the second part we identify as 5x squared with a difference in the middle. Therefore, our answer will be 7z squared plus 5x times 7z squared minus 5x. If we look at letter D, this looks a little confusing because it doesn't look like anything wonderful. The first thing we do is take a GCF out. Notice we can take a 2x out. 2x times this would give us, what are we missing? 4y squared. 2x here, we have 25x squared. And now this is going to be the difference of two squares. If you can identify what kind of factoring it is, usually the problems get much easier. So here we have 2y squared minus 5x squared. So we have 2y plus 5x times 2y minus 5x. So the answer are these three terms, 3 parentheses put together. Next we have b squared minus 7b minus 30. This looks like a general trinomial. Notice we can't take anything out of it. So we have b and b. What are numbers that equal 30? Let's see, we can have 1 times 30 2 times 15, 3 times 10, 5 times 6. Notice if you take 3 and 10, add or subtract them, you can get a 7. So let's try 3 and 10. Since the middle term is negative, we want the larger one to be negative, so positive. And if we FOIL this, this will work. L squared plus 8LM minus 9M squared. Notice we have L's in descending order and M's in ascending. Let's forget the M's for just a moment and let's focus on the L's. So we have L, we have 8 here, and we have 9. Factors of 9 are 3 times 3 and 1 times 9. Let's try 1. Let's try 9. Since the middle term is positive, let's put the positive to the larger one. This gives us what we're looking for, and then we just add the m to the end of this. Finally, this looks like a general trinomial, but it's kind of special. Please notice here, if we take 3x minus 4y and 3x minus 4y, that'll do it if we FOIL this. However, both of these terms are exactly the same, so we can actually write this as 3x minus 4y and the whole thing squared. So this we call a perfect square trinomial because these two terms are exactly the same.